Welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast for CompassKnox.com. CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more.
Welcome to Compass Points, podcast about Knoxville and Knox County government, politics, business, education, anything really that we take an interest in, as long as it is in Knoxville or Knox County. Scott Barker, I'm the editor of Compass. Compass is a subscription-based website and newsletter where we report on all of these things in much more in-depth fashion. You can find us at CompassKnox.com. And we are recording today. It's Friday when we're recording this, Valentine's Day, in Barbarian Production Studio in West Knoxville. Seth Barber, our engineer, is producer, is here with me. Seth, how you doing? Did you do anything special for Valentine's Day?
No. We have gotten to the phase where we keep it pretty light and breezy. A couple of cards, maybe some flowers, nothing super exciting. I mean, if anything, I have blessed my wife with a sunny day. Finally, we've had such a rainy week, and we're going back to a rainy week. So I'm going to just take credit in telling her that I brought the sunshine for her on the day to make sure she knows I love her.
Well, if you take credit for the sunshine today, you have to take credit for all the rain for the last few days.
I mean, she likes the garden stuff, so I can spin that. I've been around politicians long enough. I can spin it right.
Well, I hit the jackpot with my wife. She can't stand Valentine's Day. And,
nice.
Yeah. We don't really celebrate. Of course, we could wait till Monday and celebrate President's Day.
There you go. Yeah, because you're not going to be doing any banking, that's for sure.
Nope. Nope. So anyway, that's all coming up, I guess, that our President's Day holiday. But we will start here talking about the news from last week. Governor Bill Lee delivered his State of the State address and introduced his budget. We'll talk a little bit about that. Knox County Planning Commission signed off on a sign plan for the new stadium that is scheduled to open in just a couple of months. Then we have an in-depth report on the dispute between the city of Knoxville and Turn Up Knox, which is a violence interruption nonprofit. The city and Turn Up Knox parted ways, and we take a look at that divorce. And we're going to start off this week talking about the Gay Street Bridge. We finally found out what the future holds for the Gay Street Bridge, which has been closed since June 25th because it was dangerous. Lots of structural problems had been discovered, and the city, after hiring Gresham Smith, which is an engineering and consulting firm, to do a real in-depth look at the bridge to see what options the city might have. The only viable one that they came up with was to keep it closed to vehicles. It will only be pedestrian and bicycles only. They still have to do repairs to it. It's in really, really, really bad shape, and they still have to do repairs to it. And that will itself only be temporary. They're going to start looking at completely replacing the bridge. They'll have to tear it down and put a new bridge in. That'd probably be a decade or so down the road, but that's going to be the long-term plan. The Mayor Kincannon, India Kincannon, had a press conference on Wednesday of last week, and had folks from Gresham Smith there, and talked about the bridge. They had photos. They had even pieces of the bridge in with the press conference, and it is the steel supports. It's an arch. Steel arches support the deck, and the steel in there is warped, badly warped. There's some places where you can. When the engineers pointed out, oh, that's where the problem is. You can see that. It's these steel, these steel pieces that are supposed to be straight are bowed in, and it's easily apparent. Once you take a good close look at it, that something is not quite right. Even if you don't have to be an engineer to see that, and so the one issue that they have, and one reason that they're eventually going to have to tear it down, is that it was built in 1898. It's a historic bridge. It's 127 years old. It was built about the same time that the first automobile was seen on the streets of Knoxville. So that's it was built in the wagon days, and people on foot and people using wagons to get across the Tennessee River. But bridges in those days didn't have redundancies built into them. That basically means that if one part of the bridge fails, the whole thing fails. And modern bridges have multiple redundancies built into them as a safety feature. But in the late 1800s, that was not done, and so they couldn't, even if they tried to repair it to the point that it would be able to carry vehicles, it would still be very dangerous because it has no redundancies, and if one part fails, it all fails. So
I've got to ask the question then. How long has that lack of presumably there's been the lack of redundancies from the beginning of time, or at least the beginning of its existence. Was that issue ever called into question prior?
No. There's but
the rule's not new as far as the road engineering works goes.
No, it's not. And this is one of the questions the city has, that we've had. The state inspects bridges. They generally do it every other year. They were doing it every year recently on the Gate Street Bridge. They didn't see it, and the last time they had an inspection, they saw it and went, oh my gosh, you got to close the bridge. And I think my understanding is it was a new inspector who came in and saw that. So it was a fresh set of eyes.
Right.
I don't know what that says about the previous inspectors. But
everybody has to retire at some point. So,
it's also one of those things. I'm not sure exactly what they do to inspect the bridge. This is, it's a steel arch bridge. I don't know if they rappel down and take a look or what. Yeah. Now they can use drones. In fact, Gresham Smith used drones to video and photograph every square inch of the bridge. And that's one of the reasons they found so much stuff. But so I don't know if the state just last year started using drones and then went, oh my gosh, and they just didn't see it before. But the redundancy thing is something that's long-standing issue.
But just for its historical value, it kind of got an exemption from needing the redundancy thing. Or
it's grandfathered in,
right?
It's not new construction.
Right, but like a lot of code stuff now that you're going to have to do a major repair, you need to get it all the way up to.
There was, if you remember, but in the early 2000s, I believe it was 2002 to 2004, they did a major repairs to the bridge, but that was on the deck. They tore the deck down and put a new deck on it. They didn't do the
structure,
the superstructure underneath,
right?
And so that's where the issue is, and it's probably they don't know what exactly caused it. I mean, these are engineers. They're not going to say that definitively this or that unless they really, really, really know. But most likely it's just wear and tear over 127 years.
Right.
And so,
it's not a little kid bridge. It's an old boy.
No, and and at least they also said that basically the lifespan of a bridge of that type is about 70 years. So you got half a century more out of it than than they should have anyway. And so what they're going to do now, moving forward, is they're going to spend $2 million over the next calendar year, if council approves it, to do enough work to make it safe for pedestrians, essentially. And then because it's in, I asked at the press conference, kind of how close was it to collapsing? And again, these are engineers; they don't want to deal in hypotheticals, so they didn't. But it's very telling that they have to do this now. They are also going to try to get it to the point where emergency vehicles like fire trucks can go across it. They're looking at the possibility of allowing Knoxville area transit buses to, it'd be whatever route that is, it would be once an hour or so to go.
Right,
to
and only one at a time, and not
one at a time.
Right,
and they're going to have to install some sort of gating system on either end of the bridge, at least at the very least, it would limit access. Nobody would be able to accidentally drive their car across it or anything. So, but for at least, or for maybe up to a decade after it reopens to pedestrians, which will be, they're estimating at the end of 2025, early 2026, this work will be done. And for that amount of time, there will be a fairly short, actually, inconvenient pedestrian access to between South Knoxville and the downtown. Very similar. Other cities have repurposed their historic bridges. Chattanooga, for example, Walnut Street Bridge, which connects downtown Chattanooga to Coolidge Park, which is in a kind of funky neighborhood around it on the north side of the river. Nashville has one. Memphis has one. A lot of cities do this, and Knoxville is unlike Chattanooga. And I intimately know the Chattanooga one because I was born in Chattanooga and had family in Chattanooga. But the Gay Street Bridge is important for for vehicular transportation as well. Chattanooga could absorb the closure of the Walnut Street Bridge. Knoxville's been able to absorb the Gay Street Bridge closure somewhat. It carried about 7,000 vehicles a day, and those obviously have had to be rerouted to the Henley Bridge or the South Knoxville Bridge. And one of the casualties of this is the Sevier Avenue business district there. That's been since the South Waterfront project started taking off, that's been booming. There have been a lot of new restaurants, a lot of new shops, a lot of new down there, and they've been doing very well. And it's kind of a double whammy. They're getting ready, or they started doing a streetscape project to bury utilities, beautify the street, all that stuff. So it's going to be torn up a lot for the next year or two, and then that plus the closure of the Gay Street Bridge. You have to be a little bit more determined to get to Sevier Avenue than you did before. In fact, the city council will probably vote to provide them with some marketing money to make sure that people know that they're still open. Vice Mayor Tommy Smith, who represents South Knoxville, was telling me that the other day, that they're going to do their best to at least help them get the word out that they're still around. And
you can still get here. You just have to take a different way, or walk, or ride your bike down instead of.
Well, they won't be able to ride the bike across the Gay Street Bridge until next year.
Yeah.
So,
but that was already in play, so it's not like that's a short-term change. They're already not able to ride their bike there across the Gay Street Bridge.
Right. So they've, people have adapted. I mean, the city has done a couple of things. They've changed the traffic light patterns on Sevier and Blunt Avenue in particular, which Sevier turns into Blunt before it gets to Chapman Highway, and they've done some of that. They have tried to make it easier to ride your bicycle on the Henley Bridge. I would never ride a bicycle on the Henley Bridge, but that's just me. But they're going to, they're going to try to make it a nice pedestrian plazas kind of thing, at least for the time that they're going to have it. I mean, they will have to replace the bridge. People who think that this is a saving the bridge, quote unquote, are incorrect. It is not saving the bridge. It's prolonging the life of the bridge. They will have to replace it. That's just, there is no option if they want to return it to having vehicular use.
Right.
So, or motor vehicle use. You can still use those things with pedals. So, but anyway, the administration is going to have to go to council. They're going on next week to get a little bit more money for Gresham Smith to do some more work, design and monitoring construction work. But then they have to come back and ask for the actual $2 million, which they hadn't counted on having to ask for. That would have to be. They'd probably have to go. I think they're going to go ahead and try to get it in this year's budget. So they have to amend the budget for this year and take that on. The one good thing from a financial standpoint is, that's a big hit, but it's not a recurring expense. It's a one-time deal. So anyway, so those of us who have lived in Knoxville for a very long time and are fond of the Gay Street Bridge, we will have it around for about another decade and to enjoy and to see. So go by there, take some pictures, and keep them around for a while. Although there's no rush. So anyway, also one thing that we did this week is our correspondent Angela Dennis did an in-depth look at this dispute that led to the demise of a contract between the city of Knoxville and Turn Up Knox. We've talked about this before. We talked about it a little bit last week. Turn Up Knox is a nonprofit that does violence interruption. They were launched but 3 years ago, and they have and they get a majority of their funding from the city. The city's been given, they're $450,000 a year. The approach that they take, these are just regular folks, and they some of them have had run-ins with the law themselves. They're mostly young African American men and women. One thing is, they have this connection with the community. They're not coming in from outside and doing anything. They know the people who are engaged in violence, who are at risk of being victims of violence, and so they take that, they couple it with some advanced training on de-escalation techniques, all kinds of means to do that, life coaching skills, those things. So it's this street smarts plus education and training has kind of been the model. The crime rate, the violent crime rate's down, especially in East Knoxville, which is where they focus a lot of their attention. They've been praised by the city for helping achieve that. But as Angela Dennis goes into detail on the reporting requirements that they had to do to get that $450,000 a year changed. They had moved to a model where where Turn Up Knox would, instead of just getting a check and then spending it, now they would do things and get reimbursed from the city, which is a completely different reporting system. They also, the city also got them to do more as far as details on their work and how many people went to trainings, how many people did this community outreach event. That there's just a lot more detail, and even the Turn Up Knox folks will say that it was tough for them to do, and they try to do their best. The city would get these reports and turn them back to them. Then in October, City Council approved their contract for the next year, and so shortly after that, the wheels came off. The Turn Up Knox and the City of Knoxville differ a little bit on what they're blaming for the rift between the two. It's kind of a Godfather thing. The Turn Up Knox says it's personal. City says it's just business. And one of the things that people associated with Turn Up Knox said is that there were some disputes between their chief executive or president, CEO, executive director, excuse me, try to get the title right. Executive Director Denzel Grant and LaKenya Middlebrook, who runs the city's safety community empowerment office. That's the city agency that oversees this contract. That they had a disagreement. Grant apparently went to the mayor, and the Turn Up Knox folks think that say that Middlebrook did not appreciate Grant going over her head to her boss about it. Don't know. The city just says no. It was all about the reporting contract. The reporting. They lost confidence in Grant's leadership. And in fact, went to the board of Turn Up Knox and said, he needs to go where the contract's going to go. And they did not dismiss him. They still believe that he is the right person to run the organization. And so the city pulled the plug on the contract. So now what that means is essentially that Turn Up Knox is still active. It means they're going to have to cut way back on a lot of what they do. And they're going to have to ramp up their own fundraising. They do raise funds outside of the city, but it's not much compared to what the city provided for them. And if they are unable to move forward, there'll be a big hole in the city's violence interruption strategy. One of the and so they will probably end up issuing a request for proposals to see if there are other groups that can step up and do this. There are a couple of small groups that do this type of work. They didn't have the exact same model. The city might have to once again provide significant support to a local group to do that, or quite frankly, it could come from another city. But that's the one of the things that has made them effective is they are local folks. People know them, and so but now going ahead, the Turn Up Knox is going to limp along and do what they can do. The city's going to try to fill that void in some fashion, and and unfortunately, this is one of those things where the score is kept in blood, because it's you won't know the effect until and unless there's an uptick in murders or shootings. It's one of the things that the last couple of years, even the non-fatal shootings, where people just get wounded, have dropped significantly as well, and so a lot of that's policing. The Knoxville Police Department has made a lot of changes in how they go about their policing under Chief Paul Noel. But as I said earlier, a lot of the credit the city has given to Turn Up Knox. So that will be one of those things that we will have to keep track of, and we'll report on back on how what kind of impact that's had actually out in the real world. So one of the other things that happened last week that has an effect in the real world, although not as life and death as the violence interruption work is the Knox County Planning Commission approved a master sign plan for the new stadium, Covenant Health Park. It was about as exciting as it sounds, covering their meeting on Thursday. But
I'm on the edge of my seat right now.
I know. But one of the things that it's a milestone. It's showing that, hey, they are just about done. Now they can legally erect their signs outside the stadium. There's a lot of signs. The plan. They had to do the plan because it was the zoning and land use stuff went through what's called plan development, has conditions to it. One of the conditions is you got to have a sign plan, and it's got to comply with the city sign ordinance. So the plan is here. 64 signs on the these are just the outward facing signs on the stadium and the 2 residential buildings on either side, the apartment complex on the third base side, condominium complex on the first base side.
Right, and then and then there's a bunch of the different commercial stuff that's ground level in those buildings.
There's going to be signs.
Right.
They have those up. They're going to have they had to get include murals that they're going to be putting up on the side of the stadium. Everything that faces out. Now, things that face in aren't regulated by the city sign ordinance. So the individual advertising signs out on the outfield wall, and the scoreboard. The scoreboard is not covered by that.
What a fun little
yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, one of the things is it's going to have flashing lights, and
right.
The modern scoreboards, you can do a whole lot with them. And
so the back of the scoreboard that faces the street,
no,
is that going to have any signage?
Don't believe so.
Interesting. Okay.
The not under if they put signage on it, it does not comply with this plan that got passed.
Because it's not included in the plan at least. Okay,
right.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
So, which means they'll be probably fined. But the scoreboard itself, it's visible from outside the stadium.
Right.
And that's one of the concerns that Joyce Feld from Scenic Knoxville was the only person from the general public who spoke at the Planning Commission meeting on Thursday. One of the concerns is, and they've long had issues with the flashing lights and the digital displays and things like that. Is they can be distracting to drivers. Of course, that's part of the whole reason to do it, is to distract you from the road and look at the sign. But that isn't the purpose of the stadium sign. But there's legitimate concern now. Granted, for the most part, you've got the Delaney building, which is the condominium building between Hall of Fame Drive and the stadium itself, and it blocks a lot of the view from drivers. Although you will be able to glance and see the scoreboard there. It probably as far as the people on, say, Jackson Avenue, which is where the main entrance of the stadium is, you won't be able to see the scoreboard. So, but the big controversy, if you want to call it that, is a sign that's not in the proposed plan, or it's not proposed plan. They passed the plan, and it's the Planning Commission has the final say on it. But it's a sign that isn't included there, and a little unclear exactly what's going on with it. If you look at renderings that Boyd Sports, the parent company of the Knoxville Smokies, the managing tenant of the stadium, they put out renderings of what the stadium will look like when it's finished. There is a very large Covenant Health Park sign. It's kind of diagonally against the grandstand of the stadium in these renderings. Now, renderings don't necessarily have any relation necessarily with what the buildings actually look like. Anybody who's followed the saga of the artwork that's gone in at Cradle Country Music Park knows that the renderings that were used
were white.
Yeah,
it does this project.
Yeah, it's completely different. The renderings are rarely exactly what you get, but this is a big sign, and it isn't in the plan. And they had a representative there, an architect who represented the design team, and then also the city's codes enforcement guy, Peter Ahrens, director Peter Ahrens. There, they were saying that, or at least Ahrens was saying that the sign is on city property because the city and the county both own the stadium, and it is set back. It's not on one of the this is a complex of buildings, and it isn't on any of the buildings that are directly onto the street. It's set back, recessed a little. Joyce Feld, who, like I said, she's with Scenic Knoxville. She was intimately involved in the drafting of the new sign ordinance in 2015. She did a lot of the work around that because her organization just wants to make Knoxville a pretty place to live, and so if you're a business owner and you have to go through a lot of hoops on signs, that's one of the reasons. Is because Knoxville has a very comprehensive sign ordinance. Anyway, she said that no, that's not. I mean, we talked about that when we were putting this together. That's not that shouldn't be a factor. And they wound up. They talked about this for a very, very long time, and wound up. Tim Hill, who's the chair of the Planning Commission, who also sits on the Sports Authority, which is overseeing the construction of the building, said, "Listen, we can only vote. There were planning commission. One planning commissioner in particular, Karen, wanted to." They were trying to wrap their heads around a sign being omitted from it. And of course, it could be a phantom sign. It may not exist. Who knows? But the Tim Hill, went back and forth with Karen Adams, who's one of the planning commissioners, about this. And eventually, he basically said, "Listen, if it's not in the plan, it's not approved. So if they messed up and omitted the sign, and they need to come back and add it, get it approved at another time,
then we have the conversation about it, right?
So be it. But we can only look at what we've got, and what they had was 64 signs and all the way around the stadium, all kinds of different signs, as you might imagine, and so they ended up approving it, moving forward. So now we will get to see whether what the deal is on that sign that
isn't a sign but might be a sign.
Yeah. So we'll see about that, because they're moving quickly toward opening day. The Smokies start their 2025 season, the first in Knoxville in a quarter century, on April 15th. So in other news with the stadium is that they named a contractor who's going to switch the turf back and forth between baseball and soccer, because the stadium is also home to One Knoxville SC, the local professional soccer team. So what they will have to do is that 9 times during the course of the year, there will be times they'll have to convert the field.
Right, and recess the pitcher's mound, which I think is a neat little feature.
That's a retractable pitcher's mound. It's kind of like a James Bond thing.
Back when I was a kid, it was just a pile of dirt, but now it's some complex, well-engineered machine.
Yeah, and so they're going to hire a company called Earthadelic, which has got a great name.
Yeah.
And it's a locally owned landscaping company.
I see their trucks all over town running around. They do regular yard work among other things. This episode
that's how they got started.
Right. This episode is not brought to you by Earthadelic, but
no, it's not. But hey,
yet
we'll talk. No, but anyway, it's kind of interesting that they're going to have all the things they have to do because it's a different type of turf. It's a special bluegrass, I believe, blend that they put in for soccer, and they have to put it on top of basically the infield and which is dirt and grass. So they have to put down a fabric covering. Then they have to roll out the sod, to water the sod, and it takes a crew of 10 people about 12 hours to convert it from baseball to soccer use, and it takes about 9 hours to convert it back. From
I'm here to ask the stupid question: where does the soccer field go when the baseball field it's at the baseball field setup? Do we know that?
We do not know.
That's a very all right.
I don't know if they're able to reuse the sod. I don't think so, because one of the things they've got to do is the trick to doing this is they have to water it constantly while this is going on, and the roots have to take hold enough,
right,
to where the playing surface is stable,
slide around, right,
but not so deep as to make removal difficult.
This is why you hire somebody to do it.
This is why you hire professionals to do these kinds of things. I would not. I would not have a clue as to how to do this. I did a little bit of landscaping way back in the college days.
I'm guessing that job was not for your brain. It was probably more for your back.
It was for my billfold. That was why I did that.
But what the job wanted out of you was your back, not your brain.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
And I mean, what's interesting to me about this is because this was earlier this week as well. This was a newsletter item, if I recall, that the president of FIFA had swung by at UT to check in on that turf project,
right?
Talking about soccer fields and stuff like that. And so, accidentally, we know way more about the science of sports fields,
tons more than
the average municipality would probably even think about it.
Us and East Lansing, Michigan,
yeah,
because Michigan State is also working with UT on the World Cup turf. That's another interesting thing. I think we've talked about this before, but it's been a while.
Yeah.
Because they, FIFA, the organization that puts on the World Cup, they want the surfaces to be pretty much consistent across all the venues. The World Cup next year will be held in the United States, in Mexico, and in Canada. Lots of different climates, lots of different elevations, lots of different rainfall amounts, things like that. And Michigan State and the University of Tennessee, their ag programs collaborated to produce the turf and to test the turf and to try to get turf that works as well at sea level as it does in Denver, Colorado.
As a little bit of a soccer fan that I am, I did that World Cup in Qatar a couple of years back. That was a big problem in that environment, and I think FIFA really kind of put their foot in their mouth, not to make a soccer pun on purpose, but put their foot in their mouth in promising such a big stage to go well, and players were really upset about those fields. And I could see, as a fan, it's hard to watch when you guys when it's a running around sport and half the time they're on their butts, not because they got tripped, but because the field didn't work under their feet.
Yeah, and and you've got all kinds of variables that go in addition to temperature and rainfall and that sort of thing. You've got you have to design the field so it can drain well, because it does rain, and so when it does, you want it to drain as quickly as possible. UT's got that Neyland Stadium pretty much down to they know how to do that stuff. Now, what's interesting is my understanding is the turf that they're using for the World Cup is not the same turf that they're going to be using at the Covenant Health Park. So it's going to be not the same. But
I mean, you'd think with Boyd's, relationship to both parties, it might be an easy.
Well, it may be in the future.
Together,
The UT folks are really pretty single-mindedly focused on the World Cup,
as they should be. That's a big deal. So
yeah.
But yeah, that was a newsletter thing. So as a subscriber to Compass, you get the daily newsletter. The only reason I knew about it to bring it up in this moment is me reading my newsletter.
Yeah, that's good point. Thanks for the plug there, Seth. Yeah, the newsletter is it's one of those things that that people don't normally think about as being an integral part of the of a news operation. Lots of newspaper and TV news websites, things like that. They'll have newsletters that go out. Usually they link back to the website. Ours is actually kind of self-contained. It pops into your inbox around 6 o'clock every morning, and you just open it up and read through it, and you will have a pretty decent idea what's going on in Knox County. So anyway, one of the things that that you would have seen if you subscribed, and if you do subscribe, you did see, is Governor Bill Lee had his State of the State address last Monday, introduced his budget. One thing's interesting about the budget is the state budget is 3.5% smaller this year, for next year as opposed to this year. This year's budget is $60.5 million. Next year it's projected to be $58.4 million. A lot of that has to do with revenues. There's less money coming in from the federal government for one thing, and that's because of the COVID era influx of infusion of federal money is drying up for this year. A lot of these programs, they end this spring, and that plus this was kind of interesting. Finance Commissioner Jim Bryson was the day after the governor's speech was testifying at a committee meeting and conceded that the tax cuts that the Lee administration had pushed through and gotten approved have had an effect on state revenues. State revenues they're not down. They're roughly the same. A little bit higher. I think it's 2% is what they're counting on for next year growth, but it's certainly slowed. Even though the economy is GDP for the state is up, a lot more economic activity. People are moving to the state, but the revenues are not surging, to say the least. The budget is, I won't go into all the details on the budget here. It's a moving thing, but one of the initiatives that the governor really pushed does have an effect on East Tennessee. They're going to provide a grant to the Tennessee Valley Authority, $50 million to as a way to support TVA's small modular reactor project that they're doing at the Clinch River site in Roane County. One of the things about the State of the State address, when Lee gave it, he talked a lot about innovation and wanting to, the nuclear power industry is one where Tennessee is, especially East Tennessee, has always been since there has been nuclear power, the East Tennessee's been kind of at the forefront of that. There's been a lot of investment, a lot of research out of ORNL. Private companies doing here. In fact, there is one company that is going to make the largest investment in Tennessee history at Oak Ridge, and a nuclear power company. So that's really big. In addition to the $50 million for TVA, the governor's budget is adding $10 million to the nuclear stimulus fund that he's got that he and the legislature created a couple of years ago, and that helps give incentives to these companies who want to come here and build, experimental reactors and those kinds of things, that the next generation of nuclear power. That's a big deal there. Another thing that East Tennesseans might be interested in, they didn't really attach a figure to this yet, but there's he's asking the legislature to establish an environmental education center named after former governor, former senator, former University of Tennessee president, former education secretary, concert pianist, Lamar Alexander, and it's going to be located. The only thing they said was near the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. I'm assuming that's going to be Blount County, where Alexander is from, and people here in Knoxville, Knox County, are one of the things that they will tell you is that we are blessed to be in an area of the country that is beautiful, and the environmental concerns, conservation, environmental concerns are pretty high up on the list of priorities. And so this new center will be an educational hub for those types of things. So that is everything that happened last week that we're going to talk about in this week's episode. Coming up next, we have an interview with Knox County Board of Education Chair Betsy Henderson.
We could just call her a regular citizen.
Yeah, I'm not sure which role she's going to be.
That's the question.
Yeah. The Henderson has drawn a lot of criticism for going to the state legislature during the special session on education and other pressing needs, and going to the legislature and making the case for school vouchers, private school vouchers, which is the governor's signature legislation this term. She a lot of people thought that it was improper for the chair of the third largest school system in the state to go and promote school vouchers, which basically benefit private schools, but really don't benefit public schools. And so lots of people took issue with that. So we're going to be talking with him. Now, one thing to what you said, Seth, she did go and make this appearance in the Finance Committee of the Senate to say, I'm here as a private citizen. I am a school board chair in Knox County, but I'm here as a private citizen. Of course, that means everybody knows she's a school board chair. A lot of people still took exception to that, and
it brings up. It's a valid. To be fair, if this is an opinion piece by me, everybody, I'm sorry, but to be fair, like, she is a citizen of the state of Tennessee. She has a right to have an opinion on a political issue.
Mm-hmm.
But the question, and I think where a lot of people take exception on it, and that makes total sense, is would she have had the opportunity to sit down at that table and speak her piece had she not also been the chair of the third largest school board? And I don't think she would have.
I'm pretty sure I know the answer to that, but that's one of the questions.
But we'll talk to her, right? And
that's plan to ask her anyway. That interview is coming up next. Betsy Henderson, Chair of the Knox County Board of Education. Welcome to Compass Points.
Hello.
Oh, how are you doing today?
Well, it's a great day. I'm doing great. It's a Friday. The sun is out.
There you go.
It may snow next week. Maybe we'll have a snow day.
It's East Tennessee. We could. We certainly could.
It is East Tennessee. Tomorrow will be 25.
Well, of course, one of the reasons that we were hoping to be able to talk to you today is you've been in the news a little lately.
Just a little bit, right?
Yeah, we've already talked about just a little bit. You went to Nashville to talk about the Education Freedom Act.
Yes.
And first of all, what I want to do is just ask you, and that's the private school voucher program that Governor Bill Lee has promoted.
Right. Yeah,
and you are the chair of the Knox County Board of Education. So,
yes.
What is your stance, for lack of a better term, or your opinion of the Education Freedom Act and the idea of school vouchers? Lay out what you think.
Well, I am supportive of, this bill, and I've always been supportive of just educational freedom for families. I am a proud parent of 2 public school children. My husband went to public school. I went to public school. I think, we have strong public schools here. But I think that, while public school works for most, it doesn't work for everybody. And so I believe in educational freedom. I think that parents need to be the decision makers of what education looks best for their kids.
Okay.
I think that education is about building a future where every child has the opportunity to thrive. And I think school choice is that pathway to open doors of opportunity. I have choice as a parent. I have the means to live anywhere in Knox County and send my kids, but not everybody has that. But they should have that. I don't think opportunity should be determined by your zip code.
Okay. Well, the next question is why did you go to Nashville to talk about it? It's one thing to have an opinion.
Yeah.
It's we've all got them. We all, just like noses and all, but why did you feel that it was important to go to Nashville to make that case to the legislature?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, and I really appreciate you giving me, the opportunity to express, why this was important to me. This is an issue that obviously I'm passionate about. This was an issue that I ran on twice. This is an issue that I won on twice. So we know that the majority of people are, excited about this. And this has been Governor Lee's, one of his priorities for the past 6 years. And so when this opportunity presented itself, anybody can sign up to testify to the legislature. And I signed up in my personal capacity. And, I felt compelled to go and support this.
Well, one thing I was going to ask you is, do you think that you would have been able to actually speak if you hadn't been? I know you said you went in your personal capacity. You said that
right.
During your at the beginning of your testimony.
I made that abundantly clear for sure. Yes.
But the question is, would you have been able to actually get a seat at that table had you not been a school board chair in Tennessee? Because I don't know. I doubt very seriously they'd let me speak if I signed up.
No, you know what? No, absolutely they would. Absolutely. Anybody can go sign up. And in fact, the people that were testifying, there was a parent there of 2 children. There were 2 principals there. There was a student there. He was on the other side and opposed the bill, but he was there. So no, anybody can go speak in any capacity. There were several parents there. So absolutely anyone can sign up at any time and they will listen. And everyone has a voice.
Well, there saw a lot of reaction almost immediately. on social media especially, and as we all know, a lot of it was people who did not think it was appropriate for you to do that, to speak there, especially as, whether you were there to your personal capacity or not, the taxpayers elected you to run the public school system, and not your responsibility is the public school system and not anything else. So,
let's talk. Yeah, I did see that on social media, and I'm going to be honest. These are the same people that came at me during COVID. It is the same cast of characters. They have never supported me. They've never liked me. So just, insert this new issue for them to go after me. What you see on social media isn't always, real life. I think we know that. The support that I've gotten in, my day-to-day life on this has been far more encouraging and supportive than what's going on social media. And, this idea of, being on the school board, and I do support public schools. I think too often we find ourselves divided into these two camps. You're either for or against public school. I value and support our public schools, so I think it's ridiculous that this argument. You can support education for children, and that's what it's about. It's all about the kids. And when it comes down to that, that is all that matters. What is best for our children, whether that's public school or whether that's another opportunity. But again, it's putting the parents in the driver's seat. So, to all those people that are bashing me on Facebook and social media, I will never stand down. I will always fight for issues that I believe in. I will always stand to my principles, and I will not back down.
Well, did the reaction surprise you at all, or did
No. It's the same. No, it's the same camp of people that got mad at me during COVID. So no, I wasn't surprised by them.
Okay.
Hey Betsy, it's Seth, producer Seth. I kind of wanted to follow up question, see if I can't help understand a little better.
Yeah.
As a school board member and your role, like, I guess let me just simplify my question. How does the school choice program benefit families who choose to stay in public schools?
How does this program benefit those that choose to stay in? Like, my kids will stay in public schools.
Sure.
So you'll just go about, just go about your everyday life. So, do you think, are you getting at, you think that this takes money away from public schools, and how will that affect the schools?
No, ma'am. I'm just and again, understanding that you went in your personal capacity, but to try to give a little bit of understanding to those who take issue with it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I didn't vote for you. You're not in my district. That's not kind of thing. But I would feel that if I had voted for you, your advocacy should be something that is benefiting our public schools, because that is whom you represent. And so the question being, how does this help? How does this positively benefit public schools?
That's what you're saying. Again, I don't think that it is a for or against public schools. I've always been a voice for parents. Again, I've run on this issue twice. I've been elected on this issue twice. Funny enough, 4 years ago, when I was elected the first time, the News Sentinel ran an article about me the day after my election, and the headline was, "Voucher Candidate Henderson Wins. How will this change the course of the schools and the school board?" Well, I'll tell you, we have increased our teacher pay and made that a priority. We have increased the pay for our school officers. We have increased our reading scores the past 3 years by 9%. And under my leadership, we are working on making Knox County a model district for special education. So it's not about being for or against public schools. It's about fighting for education and fighting for the opportunities for all kids.
Well, Betsy, I think that's one of the objections, is that in your capacity as a school board member or school board chair, and it forgive me if I sound callous, but your job isn't all kids. Your job is the kids that come to the public schools. And
no. I think
that can be an argument. I'm not saying that's my opinion, but I'm saying that could be an argument, is that the only kids education you should be in your role, in your elected role, the only that you should be concerned about are those who go to public schools.
I mean, I respect your opinion on that. But
that's not my opinion on that. I'm playing devil's advocate here.
I understand. No, absolutely. But, it comes down to you either support the system or you support kids. And I support kids getting an education, whatever that looks like, because they are the next generation. And kids are only in school for a short amount of time. Every year of a child's life is a huge percentage. And so if we let 3 years go by, 4 years go by, that is a huge percentage of their educational career. So you're either for the system or you're for the child. And I will always fight for children and always fight to be a parent's voice.
Well, have you gotten any opposition from anybody that surprised you, or support from anybody who surprised you?
Sorry. Can you repeat that again? Lawnmower outside.
That's good. That means it's sunny and nice.
Yeah, exactly. Spring's coming.
No, I mean, I was wondering if there were, if you got surprised by either support from somebody you didn't expect it from, or opposition from somebody you didn't expect it from.
That's a good question. So actually, there were, I haven't gotten any opposition from fellow board members. In fact, there were 3 other board members who opposed the bill and spoke at a rally put on by Gloria Johnson and Sam McKenzie, and they went and spoke, again, speaking to legislators in their role as school board members. There was another school board member who went and protested in November against this. We were on a school board trip, and she went and protested. There was another school board member from Knox County who actually, funny enough, was in the video behind me while I was testifying with, an opposition poster or whatever. But so they went and used their voices, and I respect that. I support them in doing that. But there can't be this double standard of people, pushing back on me just because they don't agree with the issue. They're saying, oh, no, it's not about the issue. It's about a misuse of power. Yet we had 3 other board members doing the same thing. And again, I respect them doing that. I think everybody should use their voice. That is our First Amendment right. But there cannot be a double standard. There was, opposition from our county commission, District 6 Commissioner Hill. At first, I was disappointed by her actions, but I'm not surprised. Terry has been opposed on this issue for years. She's been fighting me on this issue for years. She's been waiting in the wings to attack me. And if Terry wants to align herself with Gloria Johnson, best of luck to her. But from the school board standpoint, there's not opposition because several others did the same thing and used their voices. And I respect them doing that. But again, there shouldn't be a double standard.
Okay. I want to pull back just a little bit. We're about to wrap up, but
yeah, I could talk about this all day.
Well, I don't have all day to talk. I'm sorry. I wish I did. This issue, of course, has been very partisan.
It shouldn't be. It's about kids, but it is.
Okay, but it is. Yeah. And the school board now, is a partisan office or a partisan board. So,
yes, correct.
Is this seems to be a little bit more intense than many other issues? Is that part of the partisanship, and is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It is funny. That's an interesting question. I don't think it's because it's partisan. I'm not really sure. I think it's, the teacher union has created this narrative for the past 20 years that this defunds public schools and this is so bad. And, they're sticking to that narrative from 20 years ago, even though the state really listened and, really put some thought and was intentional with this bill. So I really don't think it's partisan as so much it was the unions getting involved to begin with. But I'll be honest, after I came back from Nashville, I have had so many people reach out to me saying, hey, will you sit down with me? I don't totally understand what it is. And when I sit down and we have these conversations with people and they understand, they get it. Most of them have agreed with the bill, but those that don't at least have an understanding of what it is, and it kind of takes some of that hatred out of this intensity out of it. So that has been nice in the sense of a lot of people just don't understand what it is. And by sitting down and having those conversations and kind of explaining, what the philosophy of educational freedom is, but also what this bill does for Tennesseans has been very helpful.
Well, okay. I think that's those are all the questions that I had. Wanted to thank you for calling in and chatting with me about this, and I'm sure we'll talk about other things in the future. Probably not.
Yeah, no,
probably not about controversial testimony in the legislature, but other things that are possibly controversial.
I'm happy. I really appreciate you giving me the time to just explain and kind of my side of the story. But also, I'm happy to come on anytime and talk. All things schools, anything schools, any kind of updates you guys want. I'm always happy to join in.
All right, Betsy. Thanks a whole bunch.
Thank you.
We will talk again very soon.
Awesome. Sounds good. Y'all have a great weekend.
We appreciate School Board Chair Betsy Henderson for joining us for this episode of Compass Points. Now we're going to be turning our attention to next week, or this week, I guess. The events that are coming up. One of the things, of course, is President's Day is Monday. That means all these government offices are going to be closed. The only people who will be working are cops and the garbage collectors inside the city of Knoxville, so they'll still be working on their regular schedule. But the government offices will be closed. I hope everyone has a safe and enjoyable holiday. Then coming back to work the next day on Tuesday, we have a city council meeting in the small assembly room of the city county building at 6 p.m. This is the last council meeting that's going to be in the small assembly room because the main assembly room renovations should be complete, and so they can move back into that at the end of the month. Anyway, council's agenda is not real, a lot of controversial. It doesn't appear to be on the surface.
But at city council,
but it's city council that can
find
change.
Something.
About one of the things that is going to be on there is, as we mentioned, the Gay Street Bridge. Gresham Smith is the design and engineering contractor, at least for the design phase, and so they're going to be the city's going to be paying, if council approves, an extra $100,000 to them for a little bit more oversight. They're going to bring in someone to monitor all of that construction that's going to be going on to extend the life of the bridge. The amount that brings the amount that Gresham Smith is getting to do all this work to $538,000. That's well within the range of the amount of money that the city's budgeted for. The city's budgeted about $850,000 for that project. So for that part of the project, remember they've still got to come back and get $2 million to actually do the work. So, and Wednesday is it's funny because typically this week of the month the county commission would meet on Monday to do things, but with the holiday on Monday, the council meeting on Tuesday, they got bumped to Wednesday for their agenda review meeting, which will be at 3:00 Wednesday, and the consideration of zoning matters, rezonings, new zonings, all that stuff at 5 p.m. Like the city council, it will be in the small assembly room. Two things, really interesting things on the agenda. One is the county has, and we reported this in our newsletter this week or last week, Friday, that the county is going to buy the Fort Loudon Waste and Recycling property in the Oakwood Lincoln Park neighborhood for $4.35 million. If that name doesn't ring a bell, this incident will, because back in 2019 there was a massive fire at the recycling facility there, virtually destroyed the business, forced evacuations from about 100 homes in Oakwood Lincoln Park, which is and this is in the middle of Oakwood Lincoln Park, a residential neighborhood. This was back before the zoning segregated uses, as industrial uses far away from houses as possible. Back then, you wanted houses near industries, so people could just walk to work. But this is an industrial site in the middle of the Oakwood Lincoln Park neighborhood. The neighbors have been complaining about the recycling facility for years. They've been both before and after the fire. But now the county intends to buy it if commission approves, and build a comprehensive maintenance facility that would enable them to move a lot of operations from the old Sears building in Happy Holler. So at the southern frontier of Happy Holler, and possibly kind of pave the way for that to get sold to the private sector and go back on the tax rails. They're also going to be approaching the school system. See, the school system wants to put their maintenance stuff there. So that's going to, I'm sure, will be a major topic of conversation. Another one, this hits everybody. There is a proposal to change the frequency of reappraisals for property tax purposes from a 4-year cycle to a 2-year cycle. Now, if whenever you own a home or a business or any kind of property, every 4 years, the property assessor's office, they assess your property, look at see how much it's worth, and then apply that to the formula to produce your property tax bill. And it's done every 4 years. People get really, really kind of freaked out about it every 4 years too, because it typically real estate increases in value. So if it increases in value, you're going to pay, your tax bill is going to be higher, and that's just the way things are. And
property assessor was one of the ones I was thinking about. One of the offices I was thinking about running for. Now it sounds like a lot more work than it used to be. So I might.
Well, it's going to be a lot more work. Yeah, now instead of working 1 year out of 4, you got to work 2. But hey,
that's too much.
I kid. Anyway, but one of the things that would do is it would reduce that amount of sticker shock that people get every 4 years, because it would be happening every 2 years. It also enables the county and the city, for that matter, because they'll be doing it for both, or for all three, including the town of Farragut, all three jurisdictions. It will enable them to keep up with the red hot real estate market. So right now, you have to wait 4 years or 5 years in one case. Recently, most recent one was 5-year interval. There's 4 years there. Your property values, if property values are going up rapidly, then there's a lot of tax money left on the table for the city and county governments.
Right, and Knox County specifically, whose income is a little bit questionable moving forward, getting that new assessment, even though it's less than 2 years earlier, would be more valuable to their budget works.
Right. Well, and
And more accurate to what current time says it's worth. Too,
right.
Of course.
Yeah, because, I mean, if just take it right now, this is early 2025 and early 2021, the difference in the value of your house over that 4 years is huge. At least, see, I can't remember the numbers on how fast that's gone up. It's probably at least 50%
for sure.
And you want that to be, from a government standpoint, that's money they're leaving on the table every year. For 3 years till the fourth year they can catch up, and for the property owners, because that's a big jump. If you get hit with if you're one of the ones who have to pay, so that's a big hit, and so this would soften that blow a little bit when it's every 2 years instead of every 4 years. So you're still going to pay more.
Right.
That's
you
one
still
thing.
Get hit just less hard each time.
But
more often.
That's one of the things that is you just can't avoid. There is a reason about that phrase, death and taxes, because you will be paying more. Anyway, that's going to be the meeting on Wednesday with the county commission is to review the agenda, to talk about items. They're not voting on this Wednesday. That'll be the next Monday, but this coming Wednesday they will be discussing those and other matters. It's optional. Commissioners don't have to go. They don't have to talk about anything they don't want to, but they have the opportunity to discuss that. And then also they will turn their attention at 5:00 to zoning matters. So those are final decisions on zonings that have gone through zoning changes that have gone through the planning commission. So that will those will be the highlights of a short week, and we will be there, of course, and report on all these goings on in Compass at CompassKnox.com, and that's going to do it for us for this week. I want to thank Lord Seth Barber for his excellent production work and his pithy observations during the course of the podcast. Will Wright does our music for us, so we appreciate Will's work, and we will be back next week for another installment of Compass Points.
CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more. And many thanks to William Wright for composing our theme song. Compass Points is a partnership of Barking Shark Media and Barbarian Productions, and recorded by Lord Seth A. Barber at Barbarian Studios, Knoxville, Tennessee.